Hi, everybody. Avana Intuitive here with my February 28th, 2023 broadcast. I actually learned a new word this week, and the word is hubris. And I came across it. I was watching a taping of Bashar, and I will explain about Bashar in a moment, but it was basically about hubris and the destruction of Atlantis. So let's get started. Bashar, if anybody remembers Paul Anka, he composes songs and he's also a singer, and he was quite famous in the 70s and 80s. He also one of the songs I think most of us will remember is "Put Your Head on My Shoulder." I believe he composed that, but I'm not sure about that. But he definitely did sing it. But I think he also composed it. But that's Paul Anka. Daryl Anka is Paul's cousin, and Daryl channels Bashar, and Bashar is basically Daryl. I'm going to say many, many years in the future. I don't know if it's millions of years, but it's many years in the future. So he is basically channeling himself from the future, and people ask him questions, and he talks about things that we need to know to expand and expand and enlighten ourselves as we move forward. So that's who Bashar is, and what he was talking about again is hubris and how hubris caused the destruction of Atlantis. So, what is hubris? Hubris is extreme pride or overconfidence, often in connection with arrogance. I said to myself, that kind of reminds me of things going on today a bit. Again, extreme pride or overconfidence, often in connection with arrogance. Aristotle wrote that naive men think that by ill treating others, they make their own superiority greater. So, this has been kind of something we've been dealing with for quite a while. So, that's something that Aristotle said. The most famous example of hubris is in John Milton's Paradise Lost. That is of the spiritual descent of Lucifer into Satan. Again, somebody or some entity thinking that they are better than everybody else, and then kind of paying the price for it at some point. But they may or may not pay the price for it, but we'll get into that. So I have a common example of hubris is the myth is when in myths, a common example of hubris in myths is when a mortal claimed to be better than a god in a particular skill or attribute. I have two examples of that. The first example is Arachne. She did weaving, and she decided that her weaving was better than Athena, the goddess Athena's weaving, and the goddess Athena then turned her into a spider. So now she weaves, and that's why spiders are called arachnids. So that was the first example. And then the second example is Icarus, and him and his father were jailed because they gave out the secrets to the labyrinth. And in jail, they decided that they could actually fly out of this jail. So they made wings for themselves. They collected feathers and beeswax and string, and they both made themselves a set of wings. And they were going to fly out of this jail to freedom. When they did that, Icarus's father said to him, listen, don't fly too close to the ocean, because if you do, it's going to gum up your wings. The water, the evaporation from the ocean will gum up your wings and you'll drown. Also, don't fly too close to the sun, or the sun is going to melt the beeswax that are holding together these wings, and you'll drown. And Icarus decided to fly too close to the sun because he felt that he knew best, and his wings, the beeswax melted, his wings disintegrated, and he fell into the ocean and he died. So, knowing that we have this idea of hubris, basically I know best, no matter what the evidence says, no matter what anybody else says, no matter what anybody else's point of view is, I know best. Now, that's not to say that you can't question things, or that you can't negotiate with people, or that you can't have a healthy give and take with people. Of course, that's what makes life fun, and that is part of life. In fact, I think Aristotle also said that politics is the deliberation of how we live our lives together. And I thought that's true. This is kind of going off topic a little bit, but regarding that quote, I thought that's true because we only have so many resources. We only have so much time. We only have so much money. We only have so much energy to get things done. And basically, we are constantly in negotiation with each other as to how those resources are going to be used. because again, there's a finite amount of everything. So we have to kind of, while there's abundance of things, there can certainly be a finite amount. So we need to, politics is the negotiation of how we basically distribute those resources. That's kind of getting off topic a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with having a healthy negotiation. However, hubris is thinking again that you know best no matter what the evidence says, and you're not considering other points of views. So, how does this work in and how does this relate to Atlantis? About 10,800 BC, it wasn't October 31st, which is Halloween, which is actually really the basis of how Halloween got started, but it was October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd. On November 1st, about 10,800 years ago, at this point, Atlanteans, people that lived on Atlantis, but Atlanteans were basically all over the world. They lived on Atlantis, but they also moved other places and they were educating people in that. But at this point, okay, towards the end of Atlantis, before it fell into the ocean, um, many of the Atlanteans had already left it, because at 2 times a year, okay, for the previous 20 years, there's a comet that would go by named Taurid, Taurid, kind of like Taurus, but Taurid. This comet named Taurid would drop chunks on Atlantis twice a year for about 20 years. So again, a lot of people had already left. However, when this comet went by one year, a big, massive chunk of it, okay, like basically the main body of the comet, landed in the Atlantic Ocean near Atlantis, and this caused a massive tsunami. And according to Bashar, this also attributed to causing Noah's flood. Okay, and that was part of that. Now, I haven't done any research on that, but it was interesting to me on how all of this kind of tied together. So, the main part of the comet fell into the Atlantic Ocean and basically caused the tsunamis and the rainstorms and things that basically that basically sunk Atlantis. And this whole event changed our entire climate, radically changed it. Again, the island sunk. Now, what we're looking at is looking at this event and looking at the concept of hubris, because at that point, people had gotten really, really arrogant. The people that were kind of left on Atlantis were kind of arrogant that they had all this information. They were able to use this power and these crystals, and they kind of, weren't listening to anybody. Basically, this information, let's say it got into the wrong hands. It got into the hands of people who weren't using it in its best way. They were using it again in a way that wasn't a great way. So they kind of attracted this comet to them. But even though that Atlantis sunk, okay, it is actually now rising again through us, the light workers, which is kind of an interesting thought, because it's like, oh, things kind of ebb and flow and they go around in evolutions. And basically, yes, we had this thing happen with Atlantis because of this hubris, because people thought they knew best or knew better. They basically attracted a negative event to themselves. However, that negative event now is coming back around to bring all of us light workers back in. We're going to try it again. We're going to give it another go to move forward, and hopefully, and not hopefully, I really believe that we're going to move with us all being light workers here, that we're going to move forward into this new, well, the earth is moving into fourth vibration, and hopefully we're going to get everybody moving along with us as much as we can. Those of us who are light workers, we're going to help that along. So Atlantis, they had so much beauty, power, and abundance, but they got overconfident and they got arrogant. And then again, this is what they caused. They caused themselves a big event. They actually attracted this comet to them and caused this event. Now, according to Bashar, he speaks of a concept called CIA, and that's cynicism equals ignorance and arrogance. So the cynicism is falling under the illusion of power, not the power of the illusion. So if you're falling under the illusion of power and not the power of the illusion. The power of the illusion to me would be what you're creating in a better world, that you're living in that future. We talked about that last week. You're creating that future life for yourself. You're imagining that better life. That's where you should be. You're imagining things moving forward. You're imagining abundance. Fertility, nurturing, all that beautiful, all those beautiful elements. That's what you're imagining, and you're living there in your mind in the future. But these people fell under the power, the illusion of power with the information and the energy and the crystals in that they had. So we often see that. We're kind of seeing that now. I'm going to go there. We're kind of seeing that now, that it is this hubris that is creating the division between us now. And again, that is what brought Atlantis down. So we need to learn how to break this chain of rising and falling. And that's what we're doing. We rise up, we fall. We rise up, we fall down. So this hubris created this division of light and dark between us, okay? So it created this division, this hubris on Atlantis. And now, though, we need to start to move forward beyond that. We need to stop the cynicism. We need to stop the hubris. We need to not put ourselves in the path of a comet, okay, like the Atlanteans did. But what we need to do is to grow and, again, spread light and move forward. So again, this is about us learning how to break this chain of rising and falling. And then Bashar also speaks of a concept called the rubber band effect. And the rubber band effect, or the rubber band analogy, is, he said, the farther you pull back into darkness, okay, when you finally let go, so you have a rubber band, you're pulling back into darkness. When you finally let that go, when you let that darkness go, because you're so far into it, the rubber band analogy is actually then that you catapult much further and faster into the light. Well, this is a great idea, I said to myself, because this is exactly what we need to do. So and I'm not saying that we're necessarily going into darkness and deep, I don't want anyone to get all worried about this, but as we really study this concept of hubris, and it's like, oh my goodness, we actually, so as we keep pulling back, at some point, okay, we need to say, no, we're not going to go down. We're not going to do that. We don't do that here. Okay. We're not going to go down those paths. And this makes me think of something else too. I always used to think in my mind, well, they said, well, they'll take care of it. Well, they, and one day I said, who is they? Who is this they? When I talk to myself in my head, well, they'll take care of it. Well, this or that. They said this or that. And I realized doctors, researchers, elected officials, who is this they? And what this they really has to be defined as is us. We need to decide we don't accept that behavior. We need to decide this is not the direction we're going. It's not a good, solid direction. It's not an abundant, light-filled direction. So when we all decide that, and there's many more of us light workers here, there's many more of us than there's ever been on the planet, and there's love will always prevail. But we need to start taking some of our time and effort to put into that to make that move forward. We can't put the problem off to somebody else. We have to really deal with these things on our own, and as in a very positive light. So, by the way, while that we are currently on this lifetime where Atlantis sunk, according to Bashar, okay, there are many versions of Earth where Atlantis thrives. So, keep that in mind. There's all these versions going at one time. That's just the way it is with the dynamic timeline, not the linear timeline, but the dynamic one. So that gives hope, and there's definitely ways to move forward to really have this positive viewpoint and move forward and change things for the better. And again, it's not about what it is, but it's about how you use it. And what I'm saying with that is you can have the information, you can have like good things in your life, but it's how you use it. Do you use it to better people, to better yourself, to move forward? So it's not about, there's nothing wrong with having power, is what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with having power, but it's how you use that power, and you must use it for good. And again, nothing wrong with having money. Nothing wrong with having money. But again, it must be used for good. He also goes in to talk about Bashar, that the greatest power that we have, our greatest power is our freedom to choose. And each one of us possesses that freedom to choose what type of life we want to have. Okay. We all choose that. We all have that power to choose. But our greatest prison is taking that freedom away from someone. So when you have situations where someone is taking someone else's freedom away, that is actually the greatest prison for the person actually who is enslaving the other person. So the people that are enslaved, certainly that's not good, but those who enslave are also enslaved. And there's kind of an interesting irony here that he talks about, which is they're enslaved, they're enslaving others, but they don't think they're enslaved, okay? And because they don't think they're enslaved, they can't escape it. And that's kind of interesting because think about a prison guard. Think about someone guarding these, like a prison. Not that we don't need, prison guards and things like that, but when you are enslaving someone and you're sitting there guarding them, and you're sitting there making sure they're not doing, like, having freedom, well, now you're taking all your time and dealing with this issue of enslaving someone else, but you're not seeing it like that. You don't even realize how enslaved you are at that point. But that is our greatest power is our freedom to choose, and the greatest prison for someone is taking that freedom to choose away from somebody. And it doesn't have to be like on a grand scale. It can be on a day-to-day scale. So I think that's a very important concept that I may actually do more videos on as I move forward. But I did open up the Akashic Records, and I will read you the answers that I got. I have two questions that I asked about this, and I thought they were quite enlightening. The first question rather that I asked, I opened up the energy for the founders of the Akashic Records. And when I opened it, okay, it was interesting because I got extremely hot while I did the meditation to enter the Akashic Records, which I've never had that happen before. And I just felt a deep clarity that this is a very pertinent set of questions to ask at this time. I just felt that they were giving me like this heat wave, letting me know that, like, yes, this is a good set of questions. So for the founders, the question I have is, what do we need to know about the concept of hubris and its effect currently on the world, and how best we can deal with it? So what do we need to know about the concept of hubris and its effect on the world currently, and how we can best deal with it? The answer from the founders for the Akashic Records. We will start at the beginning of your question. You know the definition of hubris is arrogance and disregard of evidence, including a sense of self-righteousness, and that no one is above the law. Or I'm sorry, and that one is above the law. In your presentation today, you discussed hubris and its ultimate effect on Atlantis, that the Taurid comet fell into the Atlantic Ocean and caused earthquakes and tsunamis that sunk the island. This energy vibration on this timeline basically attracted the comet. Today, on the world stage, you don't see many leaders who possess hubris, but the few that do are causing the energy to move into a deeper, darker vibration that happens to be affecting many due to the many news media outlets that not only allow news, but also commentary about the news to be accessed and distributed almost immediately. This is causing a faster descent and a faster pullback of the rubber band that was discussed earlier. The best way to respond or deal with this energy is to stay positive and focused on the good you are creating and the high vibration that you already are. Please know that all of you have signed up to be here at this time so you can experience this firsthand and understand the high value of your positive feelings and vibrations. Practically practicing high vibrations, those things that bring you joy, and um, meditating or just quieting your mind go a long way to counteracting the negativity that is out there. Each voice is important. Each positive vibration, no matter how small, adds up. Know that if you only experienced love and light and peace, there would have been no reason to come down to earth, and you would not ever truly appreciate the value of positive feelings. The test of your soul is to truly conquer your fears. With that, the trade off is joy and pleasure. So that was the message from the founders. I thought it was extremely poignant and very relative to everything going on, and really relative to everything that we kind of always um, talk about, which is going within and finding yourself and finding your joy and just always staying on that path. So the next question I asked of Toth, and he is the scribe for the Akashic Records. So I opened up the energy of Toth, and I said, how do we break this vibrational chain of energy rising and falling so that we can remain in the light? Something that Bashar said is that we have to conquer this rising and falling of our, going positive, just into the positive. So how do we break this vibrational chain of energy rising and falling so that we can remain in the light? Toth's response is, do not follow the guidance of others. Quiet your mind and look deep within yourself. The answers are contained in your heart and in your DNA. Consult your emotions in a moment by moment basis. Do you feel good? If so, keep going. Do you feel sad, confused, negative? It is time to stop and slow down your mind and reset. Reset yourself before moving forward. Each of you is a universe upon yourselves. Do not worry about those who you feel operate from a perspective of hubris, as they are outnumbered by many who are of the light. The number of light workers on planet Earth The number of light workers on planet Earth now is enough and is increasing to move Earth forward to a positive vibration, as the ratio now far exceeds what is needed and it continues to increase. Stay steady on your path. Do not fall victim to lower vibrations. If you do, do not fret. Regain your positive equilibrium and continue to move forward. Dive deep into those things that bring you joy and happiness. It is your reality to create and to enjoy. Spend your time on earth creating light and positive vibrations, for time moves quickly and there is not a minute that should not be engaged in the way that you want to enjoy it. So very positive message. Back both of them were positive messages. And Bashar's message is a positive one, to continue to move forward and really I almost can't stress enough how much I'm learning this, to really tap into your emotions. That is what our emotions are there for, so that we can stay on our positive path. So, that being said, if you have any questions that you would like me to ask for next week for the Akashic Records, please put them below in the comment section, and I will answer them next time. And now for our 3-card pick a card. So, let me get that set up here. All right. So, 3-card pick a card. Let me get these lined up. Card 1, card 2, card 3. Let me move this again. Here we go. Whoop. 1, 2, 3. Think about which card resonates with you. Again, card 1, card 2, card 3. Okay. If card 1 resonates with you, if you picked card 1, I got caught in the ruins. You see 2 people sitting here. They're kind of stuck in a prison, okay? But everything around them is destroyed. The castle is falling on the one side. On the other side, you see that they have the forest, the jungle, the forest, whatever, is coming in and breaking the walls down. So it seems like you may at this point be feeling trapped. You may feel you have an empty relationship, you are in an unhappy job, you might have an addiction. These are self imposed limitations that you're putting on yourself, because you do have the courage and the strength to overcome this. To overcome these issues, you have the courage and the strength to just climb out of these self-imposed restrictions, and you definitely have the power now to shine. So if you're ready to move forward, you have the power now to shine if you're ready. So again, don't feel trapped. This is all self-imposed, and again, move forward if you're ready. Whoops. If you picked card 2, you picked the Queen of Forces. The Queen of Forces, you can see she is balancing the sun and the moon, and she's also standing in the river. If you pick this card, it says that you are coming into great power and you will be able to sustain it with wonderful results. Why? Because you're mastering this balance. You're not rising and falling, you're mastering this balance. This card also represents new career opportunities. Again, you hold the creativity, which is the sun, and the receptivity of the moon, and you are directing the energy. You're manifesting what you want. So again, it is time. You're coming into great power, and you're able to sustain it with wonderful results. And this also is a good card for new career opportunities coming up. So that's card 2. And if you picked card 3, you picked the Divine Physician. The Divine Physician, this shows a very powerful healing spirit is walking with you now. You are moving into magnificent healing on all levels. Someone may show up to teach you about healing. But again, this card is very focused on healing. It can be physical healing, spiritual healing, mental healing, emotional healing, very focused on it. You have a lot of energy around you, a lot of healing energy around you right now. And that light of healing shines around you and shines through you. So that's card 3. So those are the cards. That is my show for today. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel. Subscribing is free. If you would like to book a private Akashic Records reading with me or a private tarot card reading, I'm at avanaintuitive.com. And I think that's it. Yeah, please put your questions below, and I will see you next time. Namaste.